They sent out a picture of page 2 of Rabbi Kluger's sefer, Hisbodedus, where he brings in 4 key sources about Hisbodedus. We're kind of walking through with him as our guide, and to some extent me as our guide. Hashem, the Lord is our shepherd. The first thing that he quotes is like the central text in Breslov, which is Torah 25, in the second section of Likutei Moharan. And you have, this is like the main teaching in the Likutei Moharan from Rebbe Nachman about Hisbodedus. What's nice about it here also is that they, for the sefer, edited it. They didn't include every single word of it. So we're getting the essence of it as he would want us to have it, as Rabbi Kluger would want us to have it. And the first line is one of the most amazing lines. Hisbodedus. He, Maila Gedola Yoina Alakol. Hisbodedus is, the word Maila is hard to exactly translate. My new dear friend, Rebbe Nachman Siegel, who wrote his PsyD dissertation to be a doctor of psychology on Hisbodedus very recently, he translates it as asset. Mala is an asset. It's sort of like a shidduch kind of a word, like how the girl who has all the milas, like the mila is like an asset. Yeah, I kind of like the word virtue, and it's hard to translate the word mila exactly. Hisbodedus hi mila gedola elyoina al hakol, above all else. And I think what Rebbe Nachman is telling you is that, of course, there's always the needs of the moment, but basically speaking, Hisbodedus is the greatest thing you can do. Like, this is the best thing. Elyoina al hakol, that you're just going and being with Hashem. And the Hainu.
Could you just say exactly where it was from?
Torah 25 in the second section of Likutei Moharan. Please hold questions for the end. Dahainu likboa al kol panim sha'a o yoter lihisboded levadoi, which means to say, what is Hisbodedus? Is to set for the person sha'a o yoter, and this is a big thing in Breslov. Does Hisbodedus I have an ideal amount of time, right? And there is in Breslov tradition different ways of relating to it, and oftentimes the word sha'a doesn't necessarily mean 60 minutes. It's like an amount of time. The word sha'a in Hebrew also like a time of, like a sha'a Hisbodedus could be also translated as a time of Hisbodedus. But here, when the Rebbe says sha'a o yoter, sounds like when you say an hour or more, like if the word hour is just a relative term only, then an hour or more kind of doesn't make sense, right? Here it seems like he really means a 60 minutes hour. In other places, the Rebbe speaks about it even having very small. There was one time where Rebbe Nachman's main student, Reb Nassan, was with a friend on their way into a very crowded simcha. And he said to his friend, tap me on my shoulder when it's been 5 minutes, because it was taking like a long time to get in the door. And he just turned to the wall and started having Hisbodedus. And then he said, it's been 5 minutes. He said, oh, you see that? I just had 5 minutes of being in Gan Eden while I'm like waiting. Like it's like, when there's traffic or there's whatever. Hisbodedus is this option. It's not, we shouldn't take what Rebbe Nachman says here, that is to set for yourself an hour or more as completely set in stone. It's certainly not how Breslovers have taken it. However, this is how it is in Likutei Moharan. Al kol panim sha'a o yoter lihisboded levadoi. Right? And again, this is, as we spoke about last time, the word Hisbodedus literally means the act of making yourself alone. Hisboded levado is almost like it's almost like a what do you say that when you have two, something that is an unnecessary word, like Hisbodedus levado. That it's Hisboded means to be alone, but Hisboded levado, he says it twice, like make yourself alone, right? And Hisboded levado, be'ezecheder, or besade, in a room, or in nature. So in this place, he doesn't say that there's a davka, an ideal of nature. It can be in a room. Just closing the door is already an aloneness, right? Or in the field, vasade, ulefaresh sichaso ben levein kono, and to express your conversation between you and your creator. I mean, here it's in the third person, between him and his creator. B'tainus v'maslois, with words of argument. A tana is an argument, and amaslos is like is backup, like proofs for your argument. You're coming in with like, Hashem, I want to have joy in my home, and after all, we have so much in your Torah about the importance of joy, and you want joy. So please help me to be a joyous father, to make jokes, to be able to open the atmosphere, etc., that kind of a thing, and to say, like, don't my kids deserve a happy father, And doesn't my wife, after a long day, wouldn't it be so great for her if I could manage to put a smile on her face? And I'll be happier, and our whole family be physically healthier, because when you're happy, you're physically more healthy. Please, Hashem, give us joy. That kind of a thing. Divrei chen v'ritzui upius, with words of chen is usually translated as like charm. It's a very hard word to translate exactly, chen. V'ritzui means to evoke wanting from Hashem. Have Hashem want what it is that you're davening, and piyus, to appease, right? Ulevakesh ulehitchanein milefanav yisbarach, and to ask and beseech before Hashem. May be blessed. Shiur carve love lavodas be'emes. They should bring you to Him, to His service in truth. V'hanhagazu hi gedola b'mala ma'od ma'od, and this way of being is a very, very great level. Vehiderech ve'etza tova ma'od, and it is a pathway and an advice that is very good. Least carve love yisbarach, to get close to Hashem and be blessed. Ki zois hi etza kilalis shekoilel hakol, because it is a general form of advice that includes everything. Kolel hakol v'hu davar hashave l'chol nefesh, and it is something that is equally accessible to anybody. Mikatan ve'ad gadol, and equally important to everyone. Whatever station you are in, whatever age, whatever job, whatever role. Mikatan ve'ad gadol. Ki kulam yicholim lenhog hanhaga zu v'al yidei zeh yavo l'mayla gedola ashrei she'achaz b'zeh. Because everyone is capable of taking on this way of being, this way of acting, this way of behaving. And through this they will come to great level. Happy is a person who holds on to this, makes it like a part of their life, right? I just want to say for 1 minute about the Eitza Klalis Shekol El Hakol. And he's saying here that means is whatever is going on with you, Hisbodedus is an Eitza to be able to heal it, to get through it, etc. Even if you're having trouble with Hisbodedus, you can do Hisbodedus about Hisbodedus. And this is something that we'll talk about, Bezrat Hashem, over time. Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind you having a note taker. We can talk about this over time. I'm still intermittent. I'm still. You don't hear me? It's better now. Okay. So, what was I saying? That you can. that it's an Eitzah. Oh, we'll talk about over time the troubles that can come within Hisbodedus, which are very real. But for now, Eitzah Klalis, Malal Yoina, Cheder or Sadeh, room or field, an hour or more, arguments and proofs to the arguments, words of Chen, Ritzui Pius, charm, appeasement, evoking wanting from Hashem, to ask, to be brought close to serving Hashem, and it's a very, very great, and it's equal, and it applies to everything that's going on, and equally accessible to all, and will bring you to real greatness and happy as a person. So that's the main core teaching about Hisbodedus and Likutei Moharan. It's the first source that he brings. We're just going to go through all four and then talk about it a bit outside in terms of what the book, one of the very important energies of Rav Kluger's book, which doesn't appear in any of these four, but is like sort of the ruach that he's bringing us from his book. And then we'll go to the question answer. Source number 2 is from a book called Koch Ve'or. Koch Ve'or is a book that was put together later on after Reb Noson's lifetime that has a compendium of a lot of important oral teachings and stories in Breslov. Ve'amar, and they are quoting here from Reb Noson, Halo kshe Hashem yizbarach oizer v'hisbodedus azai ha'hisbodedus o kasher yidaber ish al re'eyu. That when a person helps you with her Hisbodedus, and this is a new concept for us, and that's one of the amazing paradoxical things and one of the amazing experiential things that happen in Hisbodedus, that as you're talking, you get lit up and you can really have a sense sometimes of Hashem helping you to express, and it becomes this very ineffable thing. It's me talking, it's Hashem talking through me to Himself. It's like this whole very amazing thing that the more you get into it, the more you can experience this sometimes. And when that happens, so then Hisbodedus is as a person speaking to their friend. That when Rebbe Nachman was telling this over to Reb Noson, Lakcho Admor Zal, Rebbe Nachman took Reb Noson biadav, with his holy hands, Aviv Liktefav, he like held him around his shoulders, Anav Amarlo, and he said, B'zeh haloshon, inviter, he said in Yiddish, Sezer gut, as meretzich ois those hearts for Hashem Yisbarach. When a person really can speak out their heart before Hashem, Hainu azoivi meretzich ois for emese guten friend. Umayata, they translate to Hebrew, Zetov Me'od is a great thing. When you are able to express your heart before Hashem, like you would before a good friend. Now, these two things are actually two different things. The first thing that he said, that when Hashem helps you, right, then it can be like this natural talking. But then he also put his arm around Reb Noson and said, it's so good when you can talk to Hashem like a good friend. These are really two different things. One level where you're feeling inspired and there are these words coming through you and there's this intimacy of connection. And there's mamish, a different thing, which is, because the first one you can't really control. It's like Hashem helps you sometimes and it's this amazing thing. But the second one is to kind of recalibrate our minds, and that's so much of what becoming quote unquote good at Hisbodedus is, to recalibrate our minds to recognize the accessibility of Hashem and to recognize that we're in with Hashem, however we feel and whatever's going on, and that no one knows you better even than you know yourself, than Hashem. And you really can say everything. Like that's what part of what the first one is they're talking about an inspired experience. The second one is like putting his arm around Rav Nosson and saying, like, even when you're not so inspired, just it's such a good thing, and you should know that Hashem wants. It's like a real good trusted friend. And Rav Nosson said, they're not bringing this here in this quote, but Rav Nosson says this is brought at the beginning of the book, Through Fire and Water, which is a really amazing book for everyone to learn about Breslov, and there's a lot about Hisbodedus in there too. Is that when Rav Nosson first heard this from Rebbe Nachman, he said, it was that moment that I realized that I really can do tshuva. That it really could get close to Hashem in my life. That thing, that arm hug thing, and that you can talk to Hashem like a good and trusted friend. Okay, so the first source we saw is sort of more technical: what, where, how, and the greatness of it. This one is sort of more a taste of Isha Re'ehu, of closeness, and two madregas of that. One is the inspired level, and the other one is when I'm not so inspired, but the same way I could open up to a good friend. It's just very grounded, very real, and kind of simple. Now the third source is from Sichos Haran. That's another source that Rav Nosson put together, the conversations of Rabbi Nachman, the shorter teachings and ideas called Sichos Haran, the conversations of Rabbi Nachman. Number 7, Oy Zayin, Halo Hashem Yisbarach Kvar Kara'anu Banim, said the Rebbe Nachman, that Hashem has called us his children. You are children to the Lord your God. Al-Kain, and therefore, Tov Ma'od L'farish Sichos of Itzar L'fanav Yisbarach Kebein Shekovel Lifnei Aviv. Therefore, it is very good to express your sicha, your conversation, and your pain before Hashem, like a child that is just letting everything out before their father. Even with body movements. And tenuah can also mean the sound of the voice. Shelchein v'rachamim, shekorin piestin, that they call in Yiddish piestin, is kind of the cute, sweet, expressive body language that kind of kids use. And even if it seems to a person that according to the way they act, maybe I don't deserve to be like God's child, maybe I'm not like a good child, or I've been kicked out of the house, or whatever it is. Even so, Hashem has called us Banim, Banim, either way, and this is a statement from Rabbi Meir and Bava Basra Daf Yud, that Hashem has called us children even when we're sinning mamish left and right. We're completely off. Hashem says you're always called Banim. Banim Atem Hashem Elokechem is a pasuk that is an eternal truth, an unshakable truth. So this third one is addressing the sense of distance, right? And he's saying, like, you have a closeness like a child has to a parent, which is a filial bond that we all, Be'ez Hashem, can understand, and hopefully in our experience hasn't been so darkened that we can't relate to this mashal at all, although there are people, sadly, who will have trouble relating to this, but to a child to their parent it means that, there's a ground level of connectivity that can never be broken. Means they always want to hear from you. That Hashem means, that even the body language you use and the way you say things, like the parents are watching and will be swayed, and you have a hold on their heartstrings. You really, it matters. And so Rabbi Nachman is speaking to, and like he said at the end of the thing, you may not feel like a child. You may feel you've lost the privilege of being Hashem's child, but it's a fact, right? You have that closeness, and so he's kind of, this is another thing that we'll speak of in the coming weeks and months. That there's a there are challenges to Hisbodedus. We feel closer, we feel farther. We've done this, we've done that, we've said this, we've said that, we've had this experience, that experience, etc. But he's saying there's a reality of being bani, that you are children to Hashem, children to Hashem. And so it gives you, it's not just the arguments and proofs, like he was sort of emphasizing in the first source, even like the way and the kids sort of related to the chain and the pius and the ritzui that he mentioned there too, the charm and the appeasement and the evoking ratzon. But there was sort of more in an adult kind of way. Here he's saying that the child place within you works. When Hashem called you a child, it means you can act like a child with Hashem. And this is a very, very massive thing for us these days, that there's so much Torah and so much teaching in the therapy world about inner child. And we're all, I forget what I was saying this, I think on Sunday, like when I turned 20, that I felt like, oh, it's all a ruse, the whole adulthood thing. You're just bigger, but nothing, I'm still the same kid. Saying now all the white hairs, it's the same. But, there's still a child in there who's frustrated, maybe several children in there who have different kinds of issues, etc. And they can come out in Hisbodedus. The fact that Hashem calls you bani means you can, and it's within the norm to act like a child with Hashem. It is okay. You can really go there and be like that with Hashem. Amazing. Okay, that's source number 3. Source number 4. You call Devarai, here he's quoting from Likutei Tfilos. This is Rav Nachman made a prayer for each Torah in Likutei Moran. Almost each, not every single one, but many of them. And so this is Likutei Tfilos, the first section, Tefillah 98. V'yu kol Devarai v'sichotai imcha panim el panim. And may it be that all of my words and all my conversations with you, Hashem, please let them be panim b'panim. Right? So this is related to before that you can do Hisbodedus about Hisbodedus, right? Please let it be that it's really face to face. Kasher yidaber ish el re'ehu. And he's davening, right? He's probably thinking when he wrote these words about that moment where Rebbe Nachman put his hand around his arms and you could talk to Hashem like a good trusted friend. Peh el peh adaber imcha, mouth to mouth may I speak to you all that is in my heart at kol asher im levavi, ve'eshpoch et nafshi kamayim nochach panecha Hashem, and let me pour out my heart, my nefesh, my soul before you like water. Right? He's bringing from the Navi, from Eicha, if I remember right, Shivchi kamayim libech nochach pnei Hashem, right? Eshpoch et nafshi kamayim nochach panecha Hashem. V'asaper lefanach, and let me tell you, kol libi, all that is in my heart, right? Help me to just pour it all out and really, really say everything that's going in my heart. V'rachmi v'tachanunim, with compassion, with love and beseeching. The divrei chen ritzui pius, those are the same 3 words Rebbe Nachman used that we saw at the beginning, Torah 25 in the second section, with words of, we're saying, charm and evoking ratzon, will and appeasement. Belev nishbar v'nidkeh be'emet, with a truly lowly and broken heart, like a real open heart. Keben hamitchateh lifnei aviv, like a child who's just saying everything before their parent, for their father. So this 4th one is bringing it out, into reality. It's really very interesting how they have these opening 4 quotes. I'm just noticing that they relate to the 4 sections of the Sefirot. That the first one is like a chochma bina dat. What is Hisbodedus? Oh, it's an hour. It's the greatest thing. You argue for yourself. You bring proofs. You daven. You bring ritzui. Like it's descriptive for the mind. The second one was about being those 2 kinds of ways of talking to Hashem in an emotionally connected chesed, gevura, tiferet kind of a way, of whether Hashem's giving you that inspiration or whether you're just learning to talk to Hashem, like Rebbe Nachman put his arm, which is like Chesed and Gvura, his arms around Reb Nosson and told him. And then the third one is there may be things holding you back from actualizing, which is Netzachod Yesod, the act to bring it out into actualizing, feeling plugged up and stuck. Maybe I'm not accepted here, but no, bring out that child, and you are always a child, and you should know that you're in. And then the last one, Malchus, where it's an actual example of a tefillah, which is in that last sphere of Malchus. So this is how it was arranged here at the beginning of Rav Kluger's book, and those are the four main sources. Just maybe around 5 to 10 minutes now about the book and the energy that Rav Kluger it gives us as a guide into Hisbodedus, and then we'll go to questions and discussion. Hashem. So Rav Kluger wrote this book called Yichud HaHisbodedus. This is what we're using. We're not gonna. I don't want to feel completely bound only to this book. Nobody can encapsulate the whole thing of Hisbodedus in one book, and there isn't only one way. But I feel very attracted and connected to this book. And one reason is it's really in the title. Yichud HaHisbodedus means that Hisbodedus is a way of becoming one with Hashem, and that oneness and togetherness, seeing means that you need to see both sides. There's you coming to Hisbodedus, and there's God coming to meet you there, right? So that there can be a yichud between you and Hashem. And that's something that is really crucial, because sometimes, like the word Hisbodedus implies, to make yourself alone, you can just feel lonely, and you're just saying words all alone and feel like there's nobody really listening. And the main way that Rav Kluger walks us through this is to make us aware that we are in many different relationships in our lives. There's a relationship even within your own self, between your soul and your body, right? There's a relationship you have with parents, with a spouse, with your children, with your students, with your teacher. There's all these relationships, and all of these have dimensions of what's called mashpia and mekabel. These are going to be really important words in terms of I'm just speaking to you about it outside as an introduction to when we move further, which I'm pretty sure is going to only be after Pesach. We're going to have to take a big break because Pesach is coming. But when we do pick up, we're going to see this more inside in the way that he says it. But one of the main points that he's bringing out is that we, as a created being, have a very profound sense of lack. We were speaking last week about the word angst, and my friend Nasano Siegel, who wrote the dissertation about Hisbodedus as a therapeutic practice, also speaks about existential angst right at the beginning of his paper. And so our primary energy going into Hisbodedus is as a mekabel, and that place of mekabel is really feeling our lack, really feeling needing. And he says it's important that we are aware of this, but that we're also aware of the subtlety and complexity and nuance and depth of being a human being, which is not just being a mekabel. Even though as a created being we are mekablim, But we have roles where we are also mashpim, and Hashem gifts us with these roles. And one of the most amazing things that we learn from being mashpim, from being the ones who are the givers and not just the receivers, is that we can come to a kind of an understanding of Hashem as being the mashpia. And in this way, we can come into the Hisbodedus a little bit unstuck from our neediness and lack and aloneness and disconnectedness, and sense, wow, Hashem, you must be so happy to see me, right? Like, and it must be so great for you that I made this time, and you can share in a feeling, so to speak, with Hashem. Again, always, of course, as created beings, Hashem's infinite, and so on and so forth. But the heart and the poetry of the soul can understand this, and this is the kind of thing that can leverage the Hisbodedus into being really productive and really, really fruitful. Like a yichud, between a husband and wife produces a baby. Like the Hisbodedus can be fruitful. It can be a connectivity, and not just me coming and saying a whole list of all the things that are so bad, and just a kind of a crying out. Rav Nosson says, and we'll learn this, and this is all just by way of introduction, but Rav Nosson says in Hilchos Nachlas Halacha Daled about the importance of praise in davening in general and in Hisbodedus particularly, going to the place of shevach, really going to this place of singing to Hashem and praising Hashem for things. He says, the praising can help upgrade your davening from complaint to a real request, right? This is a big, big teaching. We're going to see this inside in the coming weeks, but this is an example of appreciating the mashpia side, Hashem's mashpia side, really, really opening our eyes to it and getting a bit unstuck. Like, for instance, the one of the examples I experienced in my life of this outside of Hisbodedus is that when I was getting married, my father said, "What present would you like from your grandparents?" And I had always wanted Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. We didn't get there in our men's group yet on that, but this Kavaldik, Rav Nosson's amazing teaching about wearing Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And they're expensive, and as a bacher, as an unmarried, bearded, dancing saxophone player, I couldn't afford it. And so comes the wedding, suddenly everyone's spending money on me. I said, well, I would love to get Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And they were like, done, and I got them. It's like, whoa, Now, this is an analogy I like to bring, because when we can appreciate that Hashem is sending down billions and trillions, so suddenly my 10,000 that I need isn't that much, Like when the shevach, appreciating the mashpia side of Hashem, and really going there and letting yourself bliss out a little bit, get the melody in your bones, the song of creation, the song of Hashem's goodness that's coming down all the time. And even though we have a lot of things that are deeply, deeply troubling us, and we can't imagine how that could ever be solved, and we're coming in with a lot of the very real, especially since October 7th, and Bichlal, everyone in their own way is coming in with such bottomless pit darkness. But it's really good to go and bliss out, right? This is one of Shlomo, what did the Baal Shem Tov do when he brought Nigunim? Of course, Jews sang before the Baal Shem Tov, but one of the biggest things of Chassidus is just a group of chevra, or just by yourself, just singing, and they're gonna just going there. It's okay to go there. Adarabba, it can actually unleash and help your Hisbodedus really happen, and not just be the same canned speech and the sort of complaint and difficulty, makabel, like with this infinitely distant mashpia who I don't relate to. That think of things to praise Hashem for. Like one of the things I like to praise Hashem for is the human faces. Human faces are so amazing. There's so much that comes through. All the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes through a face. All the muscles and the glint of the eye. And it is so, each face is like, wow. Each face, it's like, it's so amazing. Hashem made billions, and they're all so incredible. And what an amazing creation, It's one thing. I mean, you find your own, you find, that's just find the things that really, really get you to a place where you could just sing and sing and sing to Hashem about it. Shevach, shevach, shevach. Just praise and praise and praise. And it's a natural habitat of your neshama. Your neshama remembers this. We were talking about it the other day. A few times he mentioned this of Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, the author of Lechadodi. We'll end with this. He brings this in his parish on the Megillah, that children love lullabies. It helps them sleep because it reminds them of the songs that they heard in heaven before they were born. It's so amazing. And we're all still children too. And we remember these songs.
Whose quote is that?
Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, in the name of Zaken Echad, which he doesn't say who it was. It might have been Eliyahu Hanavi. I don't know who told him this unbelievable idea, but it's fitting for him to be the one to write it down, the author of Lechadoidi. Like if anybody got Am Yisrael singing, wow, and you can go to his kever. It's up, it's near the Arizal of Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, the author of Lechadoidi. So, okay, so just to sum up what I've said about as an introduction to Rav Kluger's sefer is that he's sensitizing us to the mashpia makabel relationships that we're in our lives, so that we can recognize and go into Hisbodedus, not just that it's me going, but there's a yichud. There's heavens coming down too. Hashem's coming to meet me too. It's a appointment. It's an appointment, right? And so that comes from being aware of your own role as a mashpia and the way you feel as a mashpia, and that will help you get into so that you're not such a forlorn makabel. So you can be a makabel that has an appreciation that there really is a mashpia who really, even more than we care about being mashpia, Hashem cares even more, much more, like infinitely more. So we can turn the infiniteness the other way towards us. And then I just brought in this piece about Shevach that is also a way Rav Nosson says in Likutei Halachos to open up the awareness of the mashpia and how much hashpah is happening all the time, so that when we do ask, it's not just a kind of from a dark place of a complaint, but it's from a deeper place of a real request, of a real cry for help, with a sense that it could really be, that I could really get an answer, and not just that I'm sort of throwing words out. Okay, Chaim, there's so much material to do, but that's enough for today. So and now over the questions and thoughts and anything. Chaim. Just remember to unmute if you want to say Amata Esther. Yeah.
My question is, can Hisbodedus also be referred to as some kind of meditation? Or
can Hisbodedus be referred to as a kind of meditation? Good question.
I'm assuming that's actual conversation with Hashem.
Yeah, that was that first text. Right, there is definitely a emphasis on dibur, as there is in general with the mitzvah of tefillah. That's something we'll also do in later weeks and months, to look at what is the mitzvah of tefillah, and there's some amazing Torah from Maral about this and so on. But officially, it's yes. The goal is to say something. Rebbe Nachman did say that if you show up for Hisbodedus and don't manage to say anything, it's still good because you kept the appointment. You came, right? It's amazing.
Showing up, as they say, showing up.
Just showing up. Mom is just showing up. He says sometimes, and I had Hisbodedus like this not so long ago. He says sometimes all you can manage to do is say Ribono Shel Olam again and again. I said Ribono Shel Olam maybe 100 times or more. I said Ribono Shel Olam, but I just couldn't say anything.
Sometimes
so I just did that.
Sometimes when I can't, just the anticipation of the travel to the location is
it unlocks
even better.
Even better. The
anticipation
anticipation. Really, it's true. When you become regular, that's what he was saying in the beginning. When you're Ashrei Misha Yoches Bezeh, that Rebbe Nachman said in that first source, happy is the person who holds on, makes it a real part of your life, and it does. Really, I know this too. It's such a great thing. It's become so exciting. Like I'm going, goodbye world. I have an appointment, capital G. Like here we go. Yeah.
So last night I ended up talking with this gal that I know who's like in a really not good state. She and her whole perspective was like in pain and negativity. Like she couldn't escape the things.
Right.
And like I was thinking about like my own experience, like for me, like finding a place like, in Turkey, I was wealthy, he was happy with his lot.
Right.
Like to tap into a place of like gratitude is almost like the journey going to like making that connection to be able to like open perspective, to be able to see things from a different lens. She can't, she's completely like blocked off. She wants to, which is like the idea of wanting to want.
Right.
But not yet taking that action.
Right.
It's like the beginning, like that willingness. And I was wondering if there's like some tangible advice that you would give to like someone who's so completely in darkness that can't do that. Like for me, it's so natural.
Yeah.
It's so grateful.
Yeah. Okay. I hope everyone on Zoom heard that question. That is, if there's someone who's in such a place of darkness and it's so hard, how do you help them? Or what answer can they have when everything, whatever they say, whatever they hear, it becomes more of that darkness, like
and it engulfs other people.
And it engulfs others. Yeah. It's very complicated because it's a person. Each person is mamish a whole. I have to know her, but just to say outside there are certain things, and you never know what's going to open someone's heart. But sometimes becoming active in some kind of a way, particularly in a chesed kind of a way. There's something very, very profound about, like we said before, Mashpia Makabel, like if she could maybe ask her to do some help in an old folks' home or in a orphanage or I don't know, something where you see people less fortunate than you and they give you thanks. And this is something for us to think about also in terms of coming to that place of Shevach in general, that every time someone says thank you to you, there's an almost unavoidable feeling inside that you feel thankful, first of all, to have had the opportunity to be there for that person, and you feel thankful that you don't have that same need. There's which is natural, but that thankfulness that you feel, who is it towards, right? That thankfulness is a key, can be a key. And getting active, like as we know, the body holds within it great secrets. And getting the body doing things, even just almost anything, even like playing a sport, can really help a person get out of that stuck place. Walk, yeah. Even just walking.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Just keep walking.
Yeah. But this is, it's a very deep question, and it's really, it's so Yeah, this is Rav Nosson actually speaks about this in terms of Pesach, that no chametz. Chametz means overthinking. Whatever idea you put into such a person's head, it'll turn into another reason to be depressed. So matzah, fast, do something. It's like chipazon, Yitzias Mitzrayim. If they would have thought too much about it, they would never left. So that's the kind of paradigm that I'm basing off in this way, and I can show you where that is in the Likutei Halachos. Maybe you'll be able to find richer, more stuff to take out of that. Yeah. What's that?
I'm just gonna bring it to.
Oh, you can bring it here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
100.
Yes. Go ahead.
I mean, okay, you mentioned the terms before of what is it? Ratzui, Chen Ratzui, and
Ritzui.
I'm sorry, Chen Ritzui, and what was the third?
Pius.
Pius. How does that in the process of doing the Hisbodedus, how does that connect, let's say, with the Shevach? Is that like part of that same process? Is it a different part of that process?
Oh, good point. Yeah. So here, it's a very good point. In that piece on Hisbodedus, the first piece that we saw, Rebbe Nachman was not using the word Shevach out loud. His main thing was conversation with, once you're saying Ta'anot and Amatlaot, which is arguments and proofs, so you're already talking on the request level, but then he characterizes it as Chen, Ritzui, and Pius. And so I think it's very good what you're picking up on, that that's where the Shevach is kind of hiding. Like I said to you, Rav Nosson in Nachalos Daled speaks deeply and at length about the relationship between Shevach and Bakasha. And if you look in Brachas, beginning of Perek Hey, Chazal speak about this, that the essential definition of prayer is Shevach and Bakasha. It also appears in Torah number 2, Likutei Moharan. It's the two edges of the sword of prayer, is praise and request. And so Chen, Ritzui, and Pius as a characterizing of the requesting and arguing that you're doing, maybe, is the reason why it has Chen is because you are coming from a place of praising Hashem and arguing from within a place of being aware of what Hashem wants already, right? How do you evoke Hashem's will, Ritzui? Is that you're already in tune with what it is that Hashem wants, and so you're like, if you come, like, let's say, and you say, Hashem, like I was saying before about making my family happy, if you say that whole thing but without any sense of Hashem's perspective on it, make us happy so we can be healthier, so that we can be have more fun, but with no sense that it's going to help us serve you better, with no sense of Hashem's kind of perspective on it and what Hashem wants of our family to be like, then it kind of falls flat a little bit. Like it's sort of like, just because I want it, right? So the Shevach side is more being aware of all the great things Hashem is doing and what it is that Hashem wants. So yeah, I think it's very related. I hope that answers your question.
I think so.
Great. Yeah, Adam, yeah.
So throughout my life, there's times I've been alone in nature and I spontaneously strike up conversation with Hashem, and it just came to me in very beautiful ways that were very helpful in like working through things.
Amazing.
I've never had like a regular practice of it, and Hisbodedus is a more new concept for me as a solidified practice of it.
Right.
And is it as open-ended as that, where you could just be where you are and strike conversation, or is it like oh, do it standing or sitting or be
Yeah.
here or there. Like, is there any more structure to it other than no, set your time up and just do it?
Yeah, it really is that open-ended. So
Okay.
it's that's what's so amazing about it. There is a thing of kol yom, that try to do it once within every 24 hours. And like I said at the beginning, the idea of a sha'ah, there are different sources within the way the Rebbe spoke about it, and the mamish an hour or an amount of time definitely is not meant to turn into something that kind of gets you freaked out, like, oh, I only did 57 minutes, like like Rebbe Nachman one time was talking with Rav Nosson, and he's talking about how important it is to be besimcha. And then he saw Rav Nosson how he was taking it. Oh, now he just gave you another reason to be sad because you're not besimcha enough because I'm not simcha. And it's like this, so again, the practice is what makes it Ashrei Misha Yoches Bezeh. There's one of the great Daf Yomi teachers today. What's his name again? Forgetting, but he said it's not about the daf, it's about the yomi. Even if you don't understand all the way the whole daf, but just keep on showing up every day, and eventually the Talmud learning will penetrate. Same thing with this idea, yomi, that it should be daily, but yeah, sitting, standing, whatever. But to what Nechama was saying before about meditating, like it's true, Hashem knows your thoughts too, and there is a place where Rebbe Nachman said that you can have a full cry out to Hashem without emitting any sound. You can cry out just within your mind. But generally that is the goal of Hisbodedus, is to be able, like Rav Nosson said in the tefillah that we saw, to be able to speak out my whole heart and pour everything out before Hashem and express using words. So words are, the goal. But like we said before, if you don't manage to say the words, you still did it just by showing up. Yeah.
Rabbi Hundert, you mentioned a book called Kovdei Or?
Kochve Or. I didn't forward you. I forwarded the recording to the group and not to you. I'll send it to you right now. So you'll see the spelling and you can look it up. It's a book. It's on. I'm pretty sure the book is online.
Who's the author of this book?
If I remember correctly, it's a Rabbi Avraham
Chazan?
If I remember right. It's eluding my memory right now. It's one of the I think it's Rabbi Avraham, son of Rebbe Nachman of Tulchin. You can look it up. Kochve Or. Stars of Light. Any other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
Thank you.
Pesach? There will be. But we'll talk about that after this year. Okay, Yogi, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Great to see you all. Yom Tov.